Morning all, it's the Captain here. I'm in the new Andertons video room with my friend here Paul from Line 6 because we have a new toy from Line 6 to tell you about. So what have you brought in today for us, Paul?
We have brought the brand new HD500X.
Marvellous.
Just released this week.
Cool, and so this replaces HD500 completely?
Yes.
So
yes, it will do.
Can't buy HD500 anymore, or at least if you can, it's just the last few.
Yes, this is kind of the evolution of the HD500.
No problem. And so visually, I suppose the first thing that I can see here is we've got a sort of a change to the buttons that are on here. So what have Line 6 done here?
We've responded to customer demand. So what we've done is we've got two grade footswitches on there. And we've also got these nice sort of ring LEDs on there.
Yeah.
So we have the nice sort of very nice and clear. And I was using this at the weekend on quite a dark stage, and it's very clear seeing what effect you've got activated.
Now I noticed that as soon as I plugged this in, that the buttons feel different.
Yeah.
The old buttons were more of a sort of a heavy latched sort of button,
yes,
aren't they?
yeah.
Whereas these feel like just a, when you say tour grade, is that tour grade? Is that kind of you know, a sort of a recognised component, is it, that you can buy that's just generally designed to be longer
Good
lasting?
question. I guess so. Yes. I mean, I kind of get it's more to do with that real kind of pro level that you see the guys with the big racks and the big switching systems on the floor, and it kind of brings it more into the
But so there's just a nicer feeling switch, and also presumably just much longer lasting.
Yeah, absolutely, and just much clearer in terms of the LED on there. You know, it's nice to, because of the way you can run the pod, where you have your effects switching in and out. It's nice to be able to see very clearly what you've got.
I know, I do like, because it reminds me of the TCG system, which I think is kind of one of the sort of the very pro standard effects systems out there, and the board that comes with that has a sort of a circular light switch around it, so it's very cool, very easy to see everything. So other than the hardware though, what's been done internally to 500X?
Internally we've increased the processing power. So if you were doing any really elaborate switching or really elaborate effects with the older HD500, you may have found yourself occasionally running out of DSP power. We allow the user to allocate the DSP power whichever way they want for the effects that they want. So if you're the sort of person who always wanted to have lots of octave reverbs and pitch shifting and things like that, you will hit that DSP quite quickly.
Okay.
We still allow the user to select which way they use the DSP, so if you're still that person, you might still hit the DSP, but you should hit it a lot later on.
So the types of effects and the way in which they can be layered up together are the same as on the old HD500?
Yeah, absolutely. You've got eight effects at once.
Yeah.
You can run a 2 amp setup as well, so you can have 1 amp left, 1 amp right. You can have 3 effects in front of 1 amplifier, maybe 1 effect behind the amplifier in the loop, and then multiple, you know, which you could always do. Actually, just now it's a bit more powerful to do that.
We can probably on some of the close-ups show you. I don't know if you can see on close-up cam here. This is the little LCD display that you get on here. Now you can see we're running a single chain of effects here, so 1 amplifier with 1 chain. What you'll see when there are 2 amplifiers is that will split, and there will literally be two amps in that chain. And I must admit, I guess on the old HD500 it was a bit frustrating, particularly again if you're using high quality reverbs and delays and stuff. You would just find out, although hypothetically you could have 8 effects at once, it would actually be only if you were choosing effects that required sort of less processing power by the unit.
Yeah, absolutely. It was your reverbs, it was your pitch effects. So if you're trying to do a little harmony stuff, that kind of thing, you could run up quite quickly.
And presumably, with more processing power, the possibilities for Line 6 to perhaps develop, you know, sort of new effects and different effects.
Yeah, Line 6 obviously continuously moving on and updating things like the Variacs and things like the pods. I mean, when the pod started out, it had 16 models. It's now up to 30, like across the whole HD range. You know?
Cool.
So yeah, it certainly opens up the doors for that.
So we're going to run this at the moment. In this video, we're running it into a DT25, which is the Line 6 all tube amplifier, but with some sort of funky wizardry if you use it with an HD500. And we're using a Variacs JTV69 again, which is in Variacs mode. So at the moment, you're kind of really hearing what Line 6 would describe as their dream rig. What we're also going to do though in a subsequent video, which we'll link to from the description underneath it, is the HD500 into a normal guitar amplifier with a regular sort of non-Variax guitar as well. So if you don't want to, if you can't afford to do the full Dream Rig thing at the moment, you can hear what it would sound like just with your setup. So come on then, put me out of my misery. Let's hear some noises.
Well, like you just said, we're hearing this with the Line 6 link connection. So this pod, just like the other pod, is sending out the information whether the amplifier is going to switch between Class A, B, or it's going to switch penta, triode. All of that's being controlled by the pod, and then that information is sent to the valve sort of power stage in there. So I guess a couple of sort of patches. We have that kind of Fender twin patch. Nice and clean.
Cool.
Nice and clean.
Yeah.
We move on. One of the ones I use all the time is divided by 30.
Just whilst we're on a patch it, so what can I see? I guess the guys are going to be pretty familiar now with this kind of layout where you've got your sort of real-time sort of amp knobs.
Yeah, straight in, you edit your amp parameter.
But foot switch wise, I mean, I can see there's a name sort of FS1, FS2 through to sort of FS8 here. But what am I sort of seeing with the different red controls here?
What you're seeing there is the actual effect that I've kind of got activated.
Okay.
Within there, or what I've got assigned to those foot switches. So,
right.
And this is the same with the older HD500 as well. You have the 8 pedals in the middle there. Now you can control those pedals to change your patches. So you see an A, B, C, D here, and then you can switch in any sort of 4 effects on and off.
Yeah.
The way I'm kind of old school in a lot of ways. I sit with all this technology all the time, and I like to run things just like a pedal board on the ground in front of us. So maybe you want to choose a particular amp model, and then choose 8 effects. And in my normal sort of everyday life, I just switch in effects and stomp boxes in front of the amplifier. So that's what you're seeing.
So you can assign essentially, if you're using drive, chorus, reverb, delay, a certain type of amp model, maybe a channel switch on that amp model. You just assign each of those to the 8 buttons, do you? And essentially you just turn them on and off.
Yeah.
What would you then do to? How would you come out of that mode so you could just change to another patch? Or is that, are you then sort of...
Well, you can completely come out of that mode and not really visit that mode. If you're the kind of guy who wants, or girl, if you kind of want to go from a verse sound to a chorus sound and you want everything to change with one foot switch, it's perfectly set up for doing that.
Yeah.
I just kind of go, I kind of go the stomp box. If you want to change patch though, you just press this here, and that's going to change you straight through into another bank of sound. So, we mentioned the kind of rack systems with the control board in front can do that. But when we're talking about the foot switches, this allows you to kind of do that, have that kind of scenario. So every time I change patch, I have a new 8 pedals of my choice with all those settings laid out on the floor in front of us.
Fantastic.
So
cool.
Very, very, very flexible system.
And we've got, has the looper been extended in this, or is it still the sort of about 80 seconds, I think, wasn't it, on the old one?
It's 48 seconds.
48 seconds. So it's more of a riffing thing and a practice thing rather than necessarily a sort of a live thing.
Yeah, or just make some crazy noises and play things backwards and do all kinds of exciting stuff.
And the half speed is that so essentially that's used on the looper. So if you're trying to jam along to a track and you haven't nailed it yet, you can loop the track in and then slow it down.
Yeah, you could do that. That's not something that I've particularly done with it, but the reason why I use the half speed, I mean, it would be great to do a little bit of a loop sort of demo. So maybe maybe coming up, but without me sort of standing up and doing.
Oh, that's true. We'll put this on the floor.
Yeah, we maybe put this on the floor because there's some great looping functions on here. What you can do with the half speed function is you can, apart from doubling your time by doing that as well.
Right.
What you can also do is you can actually set the loop off in half speed, and then record something. Pull it out at half speed and you've actually doubled the speed, so you actually double the pitch as well. So
it does change the pitch as you
it'll
change
the
speed.
pitch, yeah, absolutely. But I mean that's a bonus. That's a bonus to me because
so you'll use that almost like an effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Yeah, I'll kind of get some effects together with that, and you can also record something, drop it down to half speed, and it'll go all subsonic and interesting.
Well, let's blitz through, and I promise not to interrupt. Let's blitz through a few more kind of just sounds through the DT25, but I know you're keen to show off the full sort of stereo processing power, which we're going to do direct into the interface, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, again, with all the pods, you have so many different ways of connecting them to fit any kind of musical situation that you would want. Whether you want to run DI, whether you want to run, you know, into an L2, whether you want to run into a normal amplifier, a DT25, whether you want to run into them all, whether you want into headphones, whether you want to run to USB into a computer. So you really have so many.
All right, well, fire away then. Let's just hear some tunes.
So, we can add the effects onto there. So the classics I just set up in the patches that I had created already. So we have your script phase.
Yeah.
Where would you be with that?
Just, it's worth noting for guys that haven't had a look at an HD500 before. On this screen down here, the little icon that is the amp essentially shows you whether or not the effects are being plugged into the front of the amp. So these three boxes here essentially are going to simulate a guitar pedal going into the front end of your amp, and at the back here these are the ones that are going through the effects loop. So it's very, very clear to see, you know, where the effects are. And although it takes a little bit of getting used to on this tiny screen here, the graphic icon that they use for the type of effect pedal allows you to quickly see whether or not you've got a distortion pedal or a modulation pedal or reverb or delay or something like that.
And then whether it's switched on or swithed off as well.
Yeah, the black ones are switched off, aren't they? And the white ones are on.
Yeah.
What is uber cool, and if our editor is kind enough, I'm sure he'll find a few screenshots online to show you, but the editing tool for this, which is completely free, you just basically buy this USB, plug it into your computer, and you'll get these amazing screens, full screen graphics of guitar amps and pedals and all kinds of stuff, and it's just very, very intuitive as to sort of, you know, how to set your amp up and where you want your pedals and everything. So if you've got the time and you're perhaps in your little home recording setup, you don't have to use the tiny little screen here. You can actually do it in full HD or whatever it is that you want to do it in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's probably worth mentioning, but the 500X has its own editor.
Oh, okay, cool.
It looks exactly the same as the last one, but thankfully you can change you can try and get your patches from the old editor into the new one. So if you're moving from 500 to 500X, you can actually keep all those patches.
Oh, I see. So if you're a 500 owner and you want to upgrade to a 500X, what you're saying is that it is possible to transport the library across, even though it's a new editor.
Yes.
Cool.
It is a little bit elaborate, but it's not that. It is doable.
Presumably,
with that much right now.
Presumably, what you then can't do is if you're a 500X owner, you can't share patches back to a 500 owner, or are you not sure about?
I'm not entirely sure about that. You probably can, and then that might be quite an interesting
well,
experiment.
Whoever buys a 500X first, you can tell us in the comment section below.
Yeah, well, probably what you may find though is if you're doing that, that would be the point where you realise that the processing power of this was more than the 500, because those patches, they may move over, but they may not like it at all. In which case, they might it may just go straight to DSP.
Okay,
limit reached.
Cool. Anyway, carry on playing. I always love on these kind of things. I think what we'll do is we'll save the big spacey ones for when we DI in, so that you can hear all that in stereo. But I think most people find that on an HD or any kind of multi-effects unit, it's those kind of classic amp tones that are just breaking up a little bit, are always very hard to kind of replicate. And people always love to hear just kind of like a searing lead tone, and just how authentic can that be on one of these things.
Okay, so. Yeah, well, I mean, let's stick with the JTM45 there. As you can see, I've got the three patches in front of there. The arm just getting driven a bit by itself there. I should have a tube drive pedal here.
And that's doing that as you're picking harder and softer and using different pickups on the guitar. That's really working well, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's essential. That's essential for me from 20 years of using valve amplifiers and things. That's got to have the dynamics. I've got to be, you know, there's no noise gate or anything there. I kind of really personally hate it when things are. Yeah, you could have a noise gate if you want. If you want, you could have 8 noise gates. But yeah, absolutely, yeah. So I know if the lightest that I can pick, it's going to respond there. it's all dynamic.
Superb.
Dynamic there.
Awesome.
Okay, so if we move on again from a different next patch, Mesa Boogie, I'm not sure what the levels are, but it should be there. I'll go for more of a Les Paul sort of stuff.
Yes, that sounds good. Can I hear a slightly heavier noise gate on there, or are you not using that again?
There's no noise gate on there at all.
Okay,
well, one of the reasons for that
because you're using the various guitar,
yeah, so we're not getting any interference from lights or anything as well.
Cool.
It's another advantage of having the various.
Absolutely.
Straight away.
Absolutely. Let's try the next one.
Okay, what else have we got?
AC15. I always think this is the hardest amp to model effectively, so I'm
should have there on the back of the track. And what we should have now is this should have moved over to Class A automatically. It has.
It has?
Yeah, I haven't overwritten that, so it's a.
If you guys aren't sure what Paul was referring to there, again, there's other DT25 videos on our channel, but the clever thing with DT25 is the power output stage of this, which is a proper tube power output stage, will actually configure itself between either Class A and Class AB or pentode and triode sort of switched mode to sort of accurately reproduce the output mode that the amp that the pod is modelling is trying to do. So because it's trying to model a Vox AC15, the output mode is switched to Class A from Class AB because that's how an AC15 would do it. So it's very, very cool to use an HD500 or 500X with the DT25. So anyway, sorry, let's hear that. So could you drop in maybe a light drive pedal in front of that just to sort of?
I certainly can, yeah. And it's very. I don't know if everybody can everybody see.
Yeah, I think we can see on the.
So I can move my hands out of the way there. I've got one pedal in there at the moment, which is the bypass that, I'm going to choose one of the other sort of 8 locations there.
Yeah.
I'm going to switch through, I'm going to find the type of effect. So I've got a dynamic effect, second one's a distortion effect. So pot number 1's choosing the type of effect, number 2 is choosing the type of that effect, yeah, and then we've got the parameters there as well. So it's very, very quick and easy. It's nice to have the editor with your computer,
yeah,
but it's also so quick and easy to actually get on the screen here as well.
So what other drive pedals have we got there, or do you want to? Actually,
yeah, we'll I'll have to watch out a little bit for the sort of levels on some of these. Let's challenge you drive. If I need to get a bit more drive from that and a bit less volume from that, scroll straight down here.
Any of these, or just?
Yeah, that's just changing the parameters that you would find if you had the original sort of tube driver. And again, moving to
very cool.
Tube, tube screamer straight there. Obviously I've got all kind of bit of a softer sound there from the DT HD250. Yeah, it's right through more extreme. The classic distortion. Yeah, because this is the
this is going to get loud, isn't it?
This is the Pro Core, right? Yeah, so let me just.
Is it? Sounds great. Well, let's keep going through the patches.
Through the amp models or through the?
Sorry, just keep going through the actual overall JCM 800.
Yeah, JCM 800. Yeah, I haven't been through these patches for quite a few for quite a long time, mate.
That sounds very cool.
The SE30. The basic amps.
Yeah, we could do this kind of all day. So let's go over to the DI sounds now that we've got. So what we mean by that is we're taking a couple of XLR leads from the left and right outputs of the HD500X straight into the computer interface that we're using to record this. Now what we're hearing is a feed from a little computer monitor, or monitor speaker, sorry, over in the corner here. But what you're hearing is essentially the sound recorded straight into the computer interface. So if you've got some headphones now or some decent speakers, this is where you want to put them on to get the full stereo imaging. And this is now showing you the kind of processing power that a 500X can do where the old 500 would have fallen over.
Okay, so here on this first patch, I just put these together last week to try and show some effects going on. We have, coming out of one of your speakers, I'm guessing on the left side, as long as everything kind of goes to plan after this, we have a Mesa Boogie, or tread plate.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and the other side we have a Soldano.
Right.
And then I've
everybody's dream rig, so...
Yeah. And we have a delay post both amplifiers. And the great thing over here, we've actually got two different effects running into each of the front end there. So we have a script phase pedal running into the Boogie, and we also have a bass octave running into there as well. And we've got pitch just running into the Soldano, and we've got the tremolo just running into the Soldano. So if I was to play both of those together, add the delay onto there. So you get a delay on both. Knock that off so we can make it a bit clearer what's going on with the other things. So if you can activate the foot switch there,
I can
do. Switch in, but only on one side. We're going to have pitch glide working on the Soldano. It's bringing in like a whammy pedal effect.
Yeah.
But we can't hear this right now, but hopefully the YouTube listener will hear this. You should have those two amplifiers with just that pitch glide
on one side
out of one.
Okay, cool. Basically. Cool, and you can presumably set that interval whatever you want, just like a whammy, can you? If you want to.
Absolutely. Yeah, I just thought I'd get some sort of effects together.
Very funky.
It's probably the effect that it's probably not a patch that you're going to use
every day for all the Beatles covers.
Yeah, so if you can press that really hard again, and that's going to switch that off. And now I can put maybe on one side. On the other side. Obviously I could have both of these running at the same time. So if
So there we've got the original tone, and one of the amps is doing an octave below, and one of the amps is doing an octave above as well.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So hopefully in stereo that sounds.
And what have you got? Have you got another example of a patch perhaps on? Oh yeah, this looks
I've
good.
got a whole collection of them, and obviously incidentally the patches will be available from me as well if you want to kind of do this from yourself or anything.
Do you have your own sort of log on the sort of the Line 6 Monkey editor thing that people can share your patches by? Yeah,
obviously the Custom Tone website has a lot of patches on there, so you can actually download each individual one. I think for every Andertons video I've done, I've put those patches up online as well.
Awesome.
And there seems to be a lot of downloads there.
How do they find your
just Paul Hindmarsh. Search Paul Hindmarsh.
We'll put that information in the description as well underneath. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Or from my website as well, which is paulhindmarsh.com.
I
believe that. You'll find us.
You'll find it.
So on this one here, we have a delay on one side, and I should be able to have it. So you've got one amplifier's got something going through the effects loop and the other hasn't, but then you've got an overall delay effect that's working on both amps. Is that right? That's the delay? The delay is only working on one side. So what we should have here is without that pitch, I should have.
guys know, the reason I think Paul's struggling to remember what's here, we're actually working in mono in here, even though you're hearing it in stereo. So
exactly.
there we go.
So now we're just hearing a pitch shifter just on the actual delay.
On the delay.
On the delay itself.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
And if I wanted to, I could actually pitch shift that delay as well with the expression panel, which I haven't set up, but it kind of gives you hopefully an idea of the pretty much whatever you want to create in your mind. You can kind of get that together with like the sort of the two signal paths there.
Cool.
I mean, on that same patch we have, I've got the bass octave and that's my usual kind of go-to pedals there. Okay, next one up, I've got the divided by 30 in the Soldano.
The edit. Some of the best sounds that we've ever had in the video room when we've been doing just general stuff with chappers has been a Marshall. It's a JVM that we use in here, so like a driven sort of Marshall sound with a Fender Hot Rod Deluxe on the other side with a sort of a mild drive going through it. So the Marshall's a bit more extreme, and it just gives this big wall of sound where I think the Marshall gives the punch and the Fender gives the sort of perhaps the bottom end and the fatness to the sound.
Yeah.
Paul very, very quickly just dialed up a dual kind of amp system here where we've got we didn't actually have a Hot Rod Deluxe or a Marshall JVM in here, but we've chosen the sort of the two most similar. So we've got something like a JCM 800 on one side and a Bassman on the other side. The Bassman has a drive pedal running into it and the JCM 800 doesn't, and then we've just got like a reverb and delay on both.
Yeah.
Now you're going to hear this DI'd in full stereo. It should sound a little bit like when Rob and I do the videos, and again we just use a real Fender on one side and a Marshall on the other. But what you can also do with any of these dual amp paths, just in case you're wondering, is it's just as easy to sum it all back into mono again if you just want to get the sound out of one amplifier that's essentially just two amps layered onto each other, or if you're recording or going to a PA or something like that, of course it can come out in any sort of either totally hard panned or anything in between really. So anyway, this is what this sounds like. And just in case you're wondering what I'm doing here, which you'll be able to see on close-up cam, and I asked Paul this question, you know, which amp do the knobs work for? You know, does it work for both amps at the same time? And it's no. You can very, very quickly and clearly see from the display over here, the cursor's either pointing at the top amp or the bottom amp, and then basically you can see as soon as you touch one of the knobs, the top row of amps is whichever amp is in the top row, so it's our Fender in this instance, and the bottom row is the Marshall. And basically you can very, very quickly and simply jump between the two so that you're adjusting the right tone or drive setting for the amp that you want. Anyway, you had another effect that you wanted to show me here, which you thought was pretty extreme.
Yeah, this should sound. This certainly sounded good in the house last week. So this is what we were talking about before was that the reverb effects, the things like the Octaverb and the 63 spring reverb, they're really processor intensive. So this should be. You should be hearing the Octaverb on one side with a divided amplifier, and then the Soldano Crunch on the other side. So we can just hear the kind of the octave kind of peeping through there.
But this is absolutely an effect that the old HD500 would have choked out on, yeah?
I believe it would have struggled. I haven't really been back through, and but it took an awful lot longer. I mean, I really tried to push it to its limits with multiple octaverbs and things, and it kind of took a long time before that DSP limit was reached. If you have an HD500, then let us know.
Well, think that's probably enough for this particular video. We're going to go and rewire the HD500X up now to work with a regular guitar amp and a regular guitar, and we're also going to do a little bit of a play with some looping in another video. But for now, all you really need to know is that the HD500X goes on sale from July the 10th, I believe.
Yes.
That's 2013.
Yeah.
And is the same price as the HD500 was. So, you know, as soon as you're watching this video, HD500X should be ready to purchase if you would wish to. I hope you've enjoyed the little video that we've done. If you've got any other questions, you can always put them in the comments section below, and either myself or Paul will do our best to answer the questions for you. And if you've got other questions about the looping and can I use it with a regular guitar or a regular amplifier, just look for some other videos that we're about to do on the DT25, because we'll answer all those questions. I hope you've enjoyed watching. I've been the Captain.
And I've been Paul Hindmarsh.
See you next time.